Good morning, everyone, and again, thanks to Wes and Karen for putting on this show. These things are not easy, I know, so thanks to you guys and all your staff that were doing that. So I've been asked to talk about scaling, and scaling is what's in front of all of us, right? Growth is what we're all trying to do. We're trying to grow our businesses. We're trying to grow, quite frankly, the ethical footprint of our businesses, and that's becoming even more important today. The system, of course, that I'm going to talk about, like Athena, is the food system. And so where Athena talked a little bit more about partnerships upstream in her supply chain, I'm going to talk a little bit more about partnerships downstream. So the simplest way, obviously, to think about the food system is that they're producers that produce the raw goods, the manufacturers that finish those goods, the retailers who then sell those goods, and the consumers who consume them. I'm going to talk a little bit about how our journey to B Corp actually was founded upon the premise that we're trying to scale our partnerships around our whole cooperative, but really downstream from us with our customers. That's who we call our retail partners, and our consumers, our fans. Next slide, please. So I feel incredibly fortunate to work for an amazing company that is a 113-year-old cooperative founded by farmers out on the Oregon coast. It continues to be owned by farming families out in Tillamook, and they are our owners and our leaders. Our board is made up of farmers. They go right from the tractor into the boardroom, and you can smell it too. So it's an enormously powerful thing to be part of a cooperative, especially one that's been around so long and been so successful and have the values that we have. Next slide, please. And of course, that has resulted in some awesome stuff. Now, we don't make chocolate milk, I'm afraid, but I'm down with everybody. Let's keep the chocolate milk going. But we make some fantastic products, including some great ice creams, yogurts, butters, and of course, awesome cheese. We're not the only ones in Oregon that make awesome cheese. Next slide, please. I would be remiss if I didn't call out Rogue Creamery and the fact that, yeah, give it up for them. I don't know if Dave and his team are here, but #1 blue cheese in the world and a B Corp. So give them it up again. All right, now back to us. So Tillamook, we make great cheese too. And so when we have been growing our footprint and growing our business, we obviously thought, next slide, please. One more, please. We obviously thought, how are our fans reacting to it? And of course, they react wonderfully to it. So our fans, the people that consume our products, without us asking, send us stuff all the time. These are pictures they just send us all the time. These are quotes they send us all the time about how they love our product, they feed our product to their dogs, and all this stuff. So it's an amazing feeling to have such love around our product. In fact, we get so much love, next slide please, that our customer service team, here they are, Casey and Jazz, they send out an email every single Friday called the Feel Good Friday email. That basically is just all the pictures and all the quotes. Most customer service desks are like sitting there taking complaints, right? We're just taking compliments. And so that's really amazing, the kind of fan love that we've got out there. Next slide, please. And of course, we've got a great group of people at Tillamook, really smart people with really great hearts that are making these products and distributing them around. Next slide, please. And we're governed by these values. And these values are really important for us. We want to be good stewards working as one team. We genuinely care. We've got a commitment to uncompromising quality. We want to win. Next slide, please. And these values come from our owners. Again, multi-generation owners. We have owners on our board right now whose fathers and grandfathers served on our board. We've got members in our cooperative who are 5th or 6th generation. So they've been here an awfully, awfully long time. And so those values that ground us every single day and guide our behavior really come and stem from them. Next slide, please. And that's why we, in 2017, instituted what we called our Stewardship Charter. Now, I think it was awesome that in 2021, the Business Roundtable in New York said, hey, maybe not shareholder capitalism, maybe stakeholder capitalism. I think that's great for everybody over there realizing that. Our owners in 2017, building on a 113-year history, said we're going to have a stakeholder mentality that is reflective of who we've been for all these years, and we're going to make it official. So this is guidance for management that says you will take a number of stakeholders into account when making decisions. Next slide, please. And there are 6 of them: our farms, our cows, our ecosystems, our employees, our consumers, and our communities. We're required by our own members to think about all of these groups when we're making decisions about the business, not just what's most profitable, but what's going to be best for all of these. And of course, the alchemy that we all know is that when you actually do the best for all of these, you are the most profitable, you are the most competitive. So, next slide, please. And these commitments are real. This is our latest one. This one was released just a couple of months ago. We have committed, back in 2019, we committed along with the rest of the dairy industry to go to net zero by 2050. But this past August, we released the fact that we are going to have an interim target of 2030 of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. That's scope 1, 2, and 3. I know scope 3 is hard, but it is hard. But this is what our farmer owners voted into effect. That's the commitment that we've made. Next slide, please. And that's part of a series of commitments that we're already starting to act on. I can tell you in just the last month, on, let's see, September 9th, we actually changed our boilers at our Tillamook plant from propane power to electric power. That lowered our scope 1 and 2 emissions by 9% in a single day. Also in September, we transitioned our entire trucking fleet from regular diesel to renewable diesel. That improved their GHG performance by over 60%. And as Stina was talking about, soil is magic. Soil is one of the most profound carbon sequesters we have. And in the last month, we've actually carbon tested 8,000 acres of soil on our farms in just 1 month. So we're doing it, and we have been doing it. Next slide, please. We've done it through things that we've done for the last number of years through our All for Farmers campaign, which is designed to support both farmers in general, but also marginalized farmers, BIPOC farmers. We've done it through our American Connection project, rural broadband. Most of the kids that were in rural areas, they were getting into cars and driving to parking lots of Burger Kings to actually attend school. So we're trying to address things like that. We've got partnerships, of course, with Susanna and the Oregon Food Bank and all the food that we donate. A whole host of things that are all oriented around doing the right things for those 6 stakeholders. Next slide, please. And that's why all of these things that we've done for years and years, it was natural for us to be a B Corp. It wasn't easy for us to be a B Corp. There's a lot of paperwork with the B Corp, we all know. But it was really, really a natural for us. But just because something's a natural doesn't mean you should necessarily do it. There was a really, really important reason we decided to actually go for B Corp certification. And it has to do with the partnerships that we needed to do in order to drive ethical scale in the food system. So next slide, please. So we think about our markets, there are 3 markets across the United States for us. There's the core, there's the growth market, and then we call the frontier, ironically. The frontier is in the east. Next slide, please. So the core, where we've been our whole history, we have 80% household penetration in the core. I mean, that's us and running water, right? And so everybody knows this. Everybody knows who Tillamook is. They know that we're owned by farmers. They know that we're a values-driven business. And that's been part of our success during that whole time. But our farmers said, maybe we should share some of this Oregon goodness with the rest of the country. And so we then, next slide please, went into the next market, our growth markets. Our strategy here was called Win the West. It was really about Texas and California, but we didn't want to offend the other 8 states, so we said Win the West. And that was massively successful. We went from about $300 or $400 million in revenue to over $600 or $700 million in revenue. So that was good. But something started to dawn on us here, which is that success was being driven by how great our product was. But it was a different kind of customer. Our consumers, did not know who we were. They knew we were a great product and a good-looking package, but they didn't know that we were a farmer-owned cooperative that had these values. It's been around for 113 years and doing things for its communities and for all of its stakeholders beyond the bottom line. So then, after the success of Win the West, we said, all right, let's just get the whole country done. And so, next slide, please. We went into the frontier. In the last number of years, we've increased the number of households with a Tillamook product in it by 10 million. Right now, 1 in 4 American households have got a Tillamook product in it. That's the same as Diet Coke. And just last year, we passed $1 billion in sales. So amazing growth. Thank you. But the same tension was there, right? The growth was being driven by our incredible product, delivered by our incredible people. But again, did our consumers really know who we were? Did they know about our values? Next slide, please. Because the fact is, when they're in the store, next slide, please, we can't lecture to them about who we are and our values, right? They're busy. So next slide, please. So that's why B Corp made sense to us. An independent, third-party, audited appraisal of how we're doing on environmental, social, governance, transparency. And the way that I described it to people internally, next slide please, was it was an express way for understanding who we were in markets where people didn't know us yet. And that really caught on, and thanks to Jocelyn Bridson, who's here, and her team who headed up the certification, we got it a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. So let me talk about the reactions that we had through our customer, our retail partners, and our consumers. Let's start with our retail partners. Many of them were thrilled. We did a whole sales slick for our sales organization. They started talking to our retail partners, and a lot of them really like having B Corp stuff in their stores. But it's more than just them liking what they're doing. It's deepened our partnerships with them, right? Sustainable Development Goal number 17, partnerships. And so we've started to get invited into a lot of conversations that we weren't getting invited to in before. We got invited to participate in Kroger's 10 by 20 by 30 waste program. We've been asked into a lot of discussions about sustainability, around community impact. We just did a whole thing with Tropical Smoothie and No Kid Hungry. So all of a sudden, it's not us just sort of pushing our stewardship uphill into our partnerships with our customers. We're being pulled because of B Corp. B Corp is helping us scale. Next slide. In fact, one of our partners, Bay Food Brokerage, they actually handle most of the Publixes in the Southeast. When we announced that we were B Corp, they put this on their site to all of their customers. Hey, why isn't every food manufacturer B Corp? We agree. Next slide, please. And of course, with New Seasons, they're a great partner to us. Next slide. I can tell you that this is my desk at our office in Slabtown. If you see those blue doors there, they're in a building across the street. That's the New Season on Quimby. Next slide, please. And look at those beautiful sets that they do for us. I took those on Tuesday. But New Seasons and everybody else who sells our products are, we're interested in scaling those partnerships, and through those partnerships, we are going to fundamentally transform the food system. Next slide, please. This year, we were really, really honored to be awarded Target's Vendor of the Year. That's for last year. We just got the award this year. Now, this is not Target's Food and Beverage Vendor of the Year. This is not Target's, grocery vendor. This is every single manufacturer that supplies something to Target is part of this, and they picked us as number one. And they said a big part of it was the fact that we were a B Corp. So that is really starting to scale this, right? Next slide, please. And so what does that mean? That means now we want to have discussions with them and others about things like insetting, where companies like, say, an airline that's buying some of our cheese, right? And that's essentially buying carbon offsets because they want to call themselves carbon neutral. Well, now maybe they want to invest in sustainable technologies and executions within our supply chain, on our farms or our manufacturing environments. And then, of course, they don't have to pay for offsets anymore. And oh, by the way, we all get to share in that. So these conversations are starting to ramp up. They're getting to scale. We're starting to transform things because of B Corp. Next slide. So let's talk about our consumers and how we're talking to them. So we're starting to put the B Corp label on all of our products. Any of you in food manufacturing know the pain that I've gone through, which how long it takes to switch packaging. Oh my God. But it's starting. But also, to Athena's point, it's making us think even more profoundly about our packaging itself. We've made a commitment that all of our packaging by 2030 is going to be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And so as we think about this stuff, thank you. As we think about putting this label on here, it's not just the label, it's the package the label is on that gives it authenticity. Next slide, please. This is an execution we did for Costco. Costco was so excited about what our B Corp certification could mean to their consumers. This is, if you've been in a Costco, they have these sets where you'll see like a rack of displays like this. Look at how big that B Corp logo is there, right out front. Next slide, please. And of course, we're talking about the B Corp certification on all of our channels, our sustainability report, online, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. And we've got an 8-foot-tall sign at our visitor center out in Tillamook showing that we're a B Corp. So we are doing everything we can to let our consumers know that we're a B Corp. Next slide, please. We're even, as we're going through a new thing that's coming up now where we're doing an auction, we're actually highlighting the fact that auction items that have our logo on it are actually being produced by B Corp manufacturers. Next slide, please. Yeah. But here's the downer. So we surveyed our target shoppers and asked them, how aware are you of all these different certifications? And so you can see the slide here, from USDA organic all the way down through, 22%. I will tell you that I've seen other research that shows that we've actually moved the ball a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's still 22%. And actually of the 22%, only about 40% really get it right. It's a lot of people sort of get it a little bit, but don't get it all right. It's an independent third-party audit. But of those that are aware, 75% would say, well, that would change my buying behavior. That would influence what I want to buy. Next slide, please. In fact, our research, this is our own target shopper, says that of all these certifications, they're all pretty close, but we're number one, B Corp, in terms of what a great impression it makes. So for us, we were really starting to get the engines of scale going with our retail partners. We're really trying to think about what can we do to get our engines of scale going with our consumers. Next slide, please. Because when we get, quite frankly, all of us collectively, we all know this, everybody here knows this, when we get more people understanding and aware of B Corp, what it is, right, that's going to be something really powerful to change every system, not just the food system. Next slide, please. And I have an idea. So on February 12th of next year, there's a Super Bowl. It is the biggest media event in the world. Next slide, please. Let's hire Tom Hanks. Next slide, please. Let's have Tom tell the whole world about B Corp, right? Talk about the fact that it's an independent audit. Talk about the fact that we know consumers want to know the ethics of the people that they're purchasing things from. Let's have Tom tell our message for us. Next slide, please. It's only $7 million for 30 seconds of ad time. Now, we heard this morning that we've got 5,800 B Corps around, right? So it's $1,200 a B Corp. Come on. We're being a little bit facetious here, but the fact is that we know that the more that people understand B Corp, these system changes will get to more scale. What's happened with our customer base, our retail partner base has proven it. We're starting to see it with our consumer base. It's going to keep going. Next slide, please. And look, there are lots of ways that we can do this, and I encourage all of us to think creatively about what we do. My team was talking the other day about, we've got Black Friday, right, which is like a cultural thing. Well, what if we made B Corp month in March more of a cultural thing, right? Be that the month that you buy everything from B Corp, whatever. Any ideas, I think, are the things that we need to collectively as a group of B Corps to come up with, because the fact is this is how we're going to change, again, every system. Next slide, please. Getting the B Corp understanding from low affinity, or from low awareness to high awareness is the game. Next slide, please. So that's all I had to talk to you about today. Thank you very much for your time. I will say that we're really proud as a farmer-owned cooperative to be here with you all today. We're in a big struggle, right? We're in a big struggle between, however you want to put it, conscious capitalism and crony capitalism or whatever. And like Athena, I can sometimes be pessimistic, but I'm pretty optimistic. It's going to be a long fight, but we're going to heal the planet. We're going to tear down the structures of corrosive privilege. We're going to bring justice and equity into every conversation and decision. We're going to do it. We're going to prevail. And we're going to do it, next slide please, under the banner of B Corp and a whole bunch of others. And that's why we're really proud to be a part of this community. Thank you.